Hello, everyone out there. This is Chris Whitaker. I am glad that you all could join me today as we are doing our best to get the All About Clout podcast officially started today. All right. Okay. Even though I'm recording and we're live and all that kind of wonderful magical stuff, we are still getting a couple things going. So let's just say that. And let's see. I am going to be joined. Okay. So here we are. No more interruptions. For real, in earnest.
You're fine.
Maybe we should put on the nope, black ones. Those are too funny of a color. All righty. So, after much back and forth, delays, tech issues, all of the above,
Oh,
I am so pleased to introduce what I call her my OG original co-host of the hits independent internet television show Indie Film Insider, the lovely and effervescent Ana Reina. Everyone say hello to Ana. All right. Yeah, we should have had our clapping sound effect ready. We'll have that. We'll have that for everyone next time.
okay.
Now, as you all know, folks, this is the All About Clout podcast. Real people, real talk, thought-provoking conversation. I refer to it as the People's Podcast. You know, it's a podcast for the people. All right. So, without any further ado, we're just going to jump right in there and get started. But Ana, I kind of briefly during the introduction spoke about how we met and how we came together. But I'm going to let you put it in your own words.
Okay. Well, I remember we were kind of brought together by Gwen.
Yes.
Gerlin, and she asked us to do the show and to interview different directors in the industry, film industry, things like that. So we were kind of brought in together to co-host this whole couple of series and things like that. I think the most beautiful thing about it was our chemistry, our synergy, like the way we just got along. We had the great questions. We were going back and forth, and it just made the show so beautiful. And we were so immersed in the entertainment industry as well at the time. And I think it's beautiful how we've both, even though we left that, how we both have grown in different ways and just expanded in different ways, tried different things out, and how we've come full circle. It was like 20 years ago, right? About 20 years ago, right? And we've come full circle back around again, which is amazing. So I love that you're still doing what you're doing and your own thing now. That's amazing.
That is so wonderful. I'm glad you kind of brought that out. Because I remember what city we were in Daytona. We went to Daytona Beach. That's where we took that picture.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that was in Daytona Beach.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think. We did that event. What was it in Tampa?
We did one in Tampa. There's a couple we did.
Yeah.
A little movie screenings and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. And so there was just so many good times. So many good times.
Yeah.
But as you said, I think it was just how we got along so well.
Yeah.
That really, that I think the people could definitely feel that, and I think that's kind of what drew a lot of people in. So,
Yeah.
all right. So now,
So here we are. Now we're talking about some tough stuff.
yes, we are talking because when you so graciously agreed to come on the podcast, I said, "Well, what should the topic be?" And then, of course, given your background and what you do, and your so. Oh, let me make sure I will let you say the name of your company and let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay. So,
Humanity.
yes, humanity. So when I first started, well, when you knew me at the time, I was really immersed in the entertainment business industry, and I was also managed rock bands and toured and traveled and concerts and shows and things like that. And I eventually made my way to education. So I started teaching in entertainment business degrees, like Full Sail and different places. And through that process, I really loved inspiring people. I loved inspiring the youth. I loved being this inspirational part of their life and this very big pivotal part of their life. But I was also going through my own spiritual journey as well, in discovering so many different aspects of me and really diving deep into that divinity, which we'll get into as well. And I have a beautiful best friend. She is Dr. Katana Kelly, and she is my contracted soul sister. And in this life, our purpose is to help people in their journey of awakening and discovery. So as I was doing this and alongside my personal journey and her really helping me, I realized that I wanted to teach something different. I wanted to teach more people how to discover their inner self and their inner sanctuary. So I teamed up with Dr. Katana, who's an incredible quantum channeler. She has a beautiful gift, some beautiful connectivity, and I wanted to help her share this information and being a testimony of it too. So we created Soulmanity, which was this platform to help people who are awakening and going through that process of trying to find their life purpose. And it's a beautiful community. It's now up to about 15,000 people. It's really nice. And then from there, we realized people needed more of instruction and guidance and mentorship. And there we created the Katana Institute. So the Katana Institute is multiple tiers of spiritual education, helping people, whether you're a beginner or advanced, kind of going through that life journey of self-discovery. So we have multiple levels, and we also certify our own healers, energy healers, as well as spiritual coaches as well. So yeah, it's been a pretty profound journey since last time we got
I
together.
know this is the last time we spoken. Yeah. Well, I will want to thank you for explaining that to everyone. And again, when I found out about what you were doing, I was like, well, hey, I have not done a episode about spirituality slash, organized religion as of yet. So I said that this is the perfect time to do it. So,
Yeah, it's
um,
definitely a deep conversation for sure. So
yeah, and it's one that I hope that will continue because I would like to do at least one more
yeah,
episode to kind of um fully expand upon this particular topic, and
yeah.
then we'll talk about some other stuff later. All right, I want to be very respectful of your time,
No, you're
Miss
fine. You
Reina.
can do
So
part two, part three. It's all good. I mean,
okay,
there's
all
so
right,
much to
so
get from it. So
yeah, so how I want to start by asking you just kind of a general question about how do you feel that spirituality do you or do you feel that people's spirituality is different or is a different thing than just participating than in organized religion?
So we get asked this a lot because a lot of people kind of leave organized religion and kind of make their way to spirituality. So spirituality is really about that interconnectedness to the divine, like your center, your core, your understanding of a collective consciousness. So a lot of people begin in religious structured organizations because that's all they know. And they kind of inherited this from their family. They were forced to go to church or taken to church. I grew up as a Southern Baptist. I had it really hard. Everything I
Oh
did was
yeah.
a sin. Everything I did was a sin. but you come in there with this, ideology of that, and not really understanding the bigger scope of things of life. And so you begin to question. You question some things and you begin to ask, well, what am I really here for? Is everything in this book, whatever book comes with your religion, is true? And that curiosity kind of tends to you start to look outside of your organized religion. So it's not to say that organized religion, kind of like, God is center, God is love. And you can call God whatever you want, the universal connection, the source. People have their preferences of what they call that unity of love. But, spirituality is kind of coming at it this way and religion's coming at it that way. But the core throughout all organized religions is definitely that there is a central being, whatever they decide to call it in their religions, and then that love is all that you need, basically. So organized religion is really just a structured, man-made kind of perspective about that divine consciousness. So each one of them are going to have their own spin to it, their own laws or their own commandments or rituals. And so each of them are kind of, depending on your culture, have their parameters, if you will. Spirituality is more fluid, it's more open, there's no judgment, there's no ego. It's a little bit of understanding the bigger scope of things. So, yeah. Hopefully that explains a little bit. It's not too complicated, but yeah. I lost you. I can't hear you. You're muted or something. I can't hear you.
Okay.
There you go. Okay.
Now I'm back. So now
Okay.
that people have a base understanding of kind of what we are gonna what the topic and what the scope of it is, I want to add that I really agree with you from the standpoint of, like, for me, spirituality is really completely different
Mhm.
than organized religion and whatever faith belief system that you may have kind of grown up in. Because the one thing you have to understand is that once you get here as a person, as an individual, you're basically your first quote unquote religion, your first experience with spirituality is probably going to be informed by whatever your parents were, or
Mhm.
may not have been, but that is going to be that first religious. I'm gonna not might not, maybe not necessarily your first spiritual experience, but your first religious experience is going to be uh, usually shaped by whatever your parents were, whatever their religious experience was at that time.
Mhm.
And then as you mature, as you grow, as you're able to make your own decisions, then I think that is, to me, that's where the choice of how you choose to uh, participate in spirituality, it becomes your choice at that point. And I think that a lot of people are so deeply rooted in whatever uh that first religious experience is that they don't there's always still going to be I think a little bit of tie, a little bit of, okay, how long, if it, especially if after a certain time it doesn't feel quite right.
Yeah.
There's still there and let me ask you, was that an issue for you,
Oh, yeah.
as you matured, spiritually, moving away from the religion into the actual spirituality, where there's that personal, relationship with whoever you decide to call your higher power or your higher consciousness?
Definitely. So when you're young, you're being shaped with certain beliefs and values, and a lot of that comes, if you do go to church, a lot of that is imprinted on you at an early age. So for me, growing up as a Southern Baptist, it's a very strict strict kind of ideology when it comes for Southern Baptists. So there wasn't a lot you can do. Wasn't a lot of wiggle room when it came to sinning and, being damned to hell kind of situation. But um, I guess when I was about 16, I really started questioning. I was like, okay, if God is of love, and if God is unconditional love, then why is there wrath in the Bible? Why does God punish the people, especially in the Old Testament? If God is forgiving, if God is all loving, then why can't there be gay people in church? Why are gay people excluded from being loved by God because they're gay, because of their preference? If God, so it was this constant questioning of, that doesn't feel right, that doesn't seem right. Like if you're really following the Bible, then like it just didn't match up for me. It didn't coincide. So I started poking holes in the scriptures and the words, and then looking up the history of the Bible and the structure and stuff. So I began questioning, and it's hard because when you have that foundation of this is all you know, and then you're trying to break that down, your whole belief system starts to crash. And it's a very scary thing because now you don't know what to believe in. Now you don't know what's true or not true. And this is where we help a lot of people in that processing. Like now, everything they thought was one way is completely gone. So the world has changed. The reality has changed. Everything is shifted. And this is what we call awakening. This is where the veil is being lifted. This is where you're starting to see the real truth behind what's being fed to you. So that's what we call the spiritual awakening process. And that's where we come in to kind of help you, really shift, transform, like really look at those, keep the parts that are true, and you kind of, it's all kind of going to be subjective, right? So you kind of find out what resonates with you. And so we kind of are there just to help in that translation problem, that processing. And so, but it's not easy shifting hardcore beliefs. That's a tough thing. And you feel lost, you feel stuck, you feel like, what am I doing here? What's going on? Who am I? What's my purpose? And it's very typical questioning. It's very typical breaking down of things so that you can build yourself back up. But it's a process sometimes that can be difficult because of the core beliefs that people have instilled in them from religious bases. And I'm not saying religion is wrong. Everyone has a preference. Everybody resonates with different things. It's just the difference of things. It's just the difference of where you're at in your spiritual journey or your religious journey. Some people start questioning at a later age. I just started younger. People start questioning maybe when they're 40s or 50s. So, it just depends. It depends on your life experiences. Maybe you've had an altering experience like a car accident or death, or, a family member dies, or maybe you had a severe illness where you were faced with death that makes you question like why we're here. So there can be so many different things that can kind of awaken you to question that there's something bigger out there than what you've been fed. So hopefully that
Okay,
answered.
that was so. You put that really well. You explained it kind of exactly as I thought you might, but but I know you, so it's different. It's different for me. Um, you hit the one point that for me really resonated is that in your youth you're gonna cling to what your foundation is, and then as you mature, as life happens, as life unfolds, your spiritual needs are going to be different than what they were when you were a child and you got that first religious experience, again probably inherited from whatever it was that the rest of your family was doing. So I think it's that as you begin to mature, you begin to grow, as your spiritual needs become different, that's when the process of graduating to that awakening, as you say, you start to poke the holes, you
Mhm.
start to question, and it's a process. And it seems that your Soulmanity and the Katana Institute actually helps people in that process.
Yes.
So that to me is such a wonderful, beautiful thing. But let's just say, I mean, and I think I kind of wanted to do a whole, oh, let's just talk about, the big four religions a little bit, and let's, kind of, but I think just people know, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, a lot of the Eastern philosophies, Buddhism, Hinduism, all those things. People have a basic general knowledge about these religious institutions, if you will.
But you have to
But
understand, like some were more like philosophies too. So
it's,
like Buddhism is a beautiful flow of life, and I wouldn't say that's a structured religion, but it's
mhm.
acknowledged as a
Yeah, and even in that outline that I probably sent to the wrong email, I spoke I spoke to you about how, again, like Buddhism, Hinduism, not so much like structured religious organizations, but more, again, philosophies, and just again, free flowing kind of, for me,
Taoism, same thing.
yeah, and it's really, again, about that enlightenment and that connectivity to the higher power. So I think maybe not as many people uh in what we're gonna just kind of classify as like Western civilization.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have a deep understanding of those philosophies, because they just don't necessarily experience it enough to have uh, uh, a deep enough understanding of it.
Yeah.
So, but there are obviously, through the course of history and probably their own personal life, they are very familiar with Judaism. They're very familiar with Christianity. They're very familiar with Islam. And so, but the history of those three religions gets so complicated.
Yes.
There's that whole Crusades thing that happened. Remember that? And there's that whole, death to the infidel and all that.
Start on that.
Just like, and so, yeah, I think,
Yeah.
and I've been wanting to say this to somebody who could kind of have an understanding of it, and be able to kind of maybe help me put it into context. There's just been so much, what I would say, non-spiritual activity going on in the big three religions, that it's super hard for me to kind of like wrap my head around how because again, you have to kind of place it in context, both historically, politically, all of these things. um how do you kind of reconcile all of the non-spiritual activity that goes on in the big three organized religions? How does one even do that?
Okay. Usually the core thing that we align ourselves with is honestly unconditional love, like non-judgment, unconditional love and unity. The overall consciousness. We even call it Christ consciousness, because Jesus Christ was all about unconditional love and things like that. So as a human, as a guide here on earth for us. So when it comes down to looking at different religions, and you're kind of seeing what's going on or what's being driven by religion, whether it's war, whether it's these activities, or whether it's judgment or damnation, or whatever the case may be, you have to really ask yourself inside, what feels right for you? What does this feel right? This behavior, this ideology, does this feel good or not feel good? Or you're like, yes, I support that. Yes, do this, do that. So it's up to you where you feel that alignment, and you will. If it doesn't feel good, then it's not in alignment. That's just the basic fundamental of your frequency aligning to something that you believe in. So even though someone might tell you this is the right thing to believe in, or you should do this, or you should worship that, it's really what you're going to feel inside, what feels right to you, and not be scared of the judgment around you, not be scared of people putting you down, or you're not going with the flow of the, everyone else's perspective around you, but really staying true to who you are, because that's what we call your authentic self. And if it's not meshing anymore with what you grew up with, if it's not meshing anymore with your friends, that's okay. We evolve at different speeds and different ways. So to come back to what you're saying, like if you're observing this in other places and other activities in other countries, that's their journey. That's their involvement. That's their, practice. It's up to you on how you react to it, how you judge it, how you align with it, and what you do for yourself. That's the most important. So, I don't, even though I grew up a Southern Baptist, I don't look at a Southern Baptist church as like, you guys got it wrong. It's not like that. It's just more like, you do you, boo. You're on your journey. I wish you all well. I'm sending you love and light. I hope you guys are all happy with your journey, and whatever way of getting to that source is really up to you. But aligning, it's not like, okay, we're right, you're wrong, or we're right, and we know what it is, and you don't know what it is. It's not like that. It's more like, for me, for you, or for whoever's going through that process, what feels like the truth. That's what it is. Now, whether they haven't awakened yet, or whether they are very narrow-minded, or whether they're very judgy. Some Christians can be really judgy, very judgy, hypocritical sometimes. Other religions as well, they start wars in the name of God. So whatever the case may be, really what you can focus on is your personal journey, and sending love and light to whoever, or wish them well, or bless their journey so that they can find their true peace in whatever
Yeah.
process that. So,
Well, I think you hit on a couple of things that are super important for me from the standpoint of understanding that a personal relationship with the source, that is between you and the source.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
right.
So I think a lot of people, in or for the sake of having I think there's a difference between having a religious community to, well, worship and fellowship with, is very different than having a spiritual
Mhm.
community that you can worship, praise, all of those things with. Because the first part of it, that spiritual aspect of it, that personal relationship aspect of it, that's between you and the source, and that's for you.
Right.
Then typically, as you grow or mature spiritually, you want to begin to have a community that you can kind of rely on
Like-minded
to,
goals, yeah.
yes, like yes, to help you along the way, to
Yeah.
encourage you, to kind of guide you, to just basically be that sort of um, support
Yeah.
system.
That's why Soulmanity was created, just for that reason. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so again, it just really, for me, if there was a wish that I had for people who
Huh.
are on their spiritual journey, is that they would be able to recognize the difference between that personal relationship that you have with your higher power, and that communal relationship that they would obviously, I would assume, would want to grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, uh, it really comes down to, for
Yeah.
me, it's like, you just have to, I think, if I could like just put it out there and say, hey, everybody, you need to kind of recognize, hey, there's your personal, you
Yeah.
know, spiritual growth and maturation, and then there's your communal. And obviously, you want them to kind of flow back and forth, but you can't. I think it's important not to let one hinder the other, and
Yeah.
vice versa. Do
That's well
what?
said. Definitely well said. Yeah. Yeah.
All righty.
Yeah. Because I
I
think,
get one in there every now and then. Yeah.
no, but
I know.
I
Well,
mean,
good no, guys. My goodness, I think this was truly one of those spiritual, wonderful happenstances because um because but because before or I reached out to you again, I did not know that you had started Soul Manatee. I didn't know about
yeah.
your connection with the Katana Institute. So this again, wonderful, one of those wonderful happy accidents that I think
Yeah.
is going to bear some fruit because as we continue to have this conversation, I want you to feel free to uh, just go wow with it and let people know about Soulmanity and the Cognitive Institute
Well, I
because
mean,
I think you're absolutely doing very, very, very important work.
thank you. Yeah. I think a lot of people on this journey to your communal thing, when they start to come into their awakening, it's very isolating because no one around them is going to understand what they're going through, their thought process. Their family members are going to think they're going crazy. As you're awakening, a lot of things are coming online, like your understanding about life and connection and frequency and vibrations, things that you don't really learn in church per se. But um, so you're going through this whole processing part, and none of your friends or family may think of it. So there's a lot of isolation because you naturally tend to go inward, which is fine. But having a community you can talk to about it is beautiful, just like you said. And it doesn't make you feel like you have to go through it alone because there's so many people who are kind of waking up to this spirituality, waking up to their purpose. And it's nice to know that other people feel the same way as you, especially you're in Tennessee, that whole Bible Belt area.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
there's a church on
It's
every
up.
corner.
Yeah, it is a thing. Trust and
Yeah,
believe me.
yeah.
And
So I'm
so
sure
I'm
there's a
glad
lot of
we
judgment
yeah
there.
yeah.
So,
I'm so glad that we spoke about that purpose aspect of it because you're unless you unless you do that work. I know that the shadow work. That's it's a
yeah.
term. It's a thing now. Everybody.
Exactly. This is some
Yeah,
terminology here. I love
yeah,
it.
come on now. But for me, it's like it's a hard subject for a lot of people because again they just had a lot of people especially in the Bible Belt in the South, they are so rooted in
Mm,
that foundational um religious th- I think a lot of people just are so hesitant to let it go.
yeah, yeah. And there's this, yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep
No,
going.
and I was just gonna say that I just wish people would be a little more open to other forms of worship, other forms of praise, other forms of connection.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
instead of going to church, I go to the beach. So every week I'm at the beach, and you have to remember, even back in the day with indigenous tribes, they thought God was nature. They thought God was the trees and the sun and the moon. And so they would worship to the rain gods and they would pray to different types of, the sun and the moon, and they would name the moon, and everything was run by the schedules of nature and the seasons and things like that. So it was for them, God was everything, you know. So as organized religion kind of came in, which is fine, and it created this idea of worship. And worship in spirituality is not, we don't worship anything because we are part of God. So we are part of the all. And so, even in the Bible it says we were created in his likeness and things like that. And so it is part of us. We're just a small cell, a small piece of the divine, of everything.
Yeah, don't
So
you know that ye are gods? It's that
yeah,
sort of thing. Because
yeah,
if someone asked me how I would try or attempt to explain it, is that we are all gods from the standpoint is that we emanate from God. We are just a tiny piece
Right.
of God. Have It's like I say that we're the same in quality, maybe not necessarily quantity, because we're
Yeah.
just all tiny
Yeah.
pieces, aspects.
So Dr. Katana likes to put it like this: as a person, we have trillions of cells inside of us, trillions and trillions of cells every day. And each cell has a role or a responsibility. You have liver, you have cells in your liver, you have cells in your stomach, each of these cells work and vibrate and do certain responsibilities. But each cell is part of the whole. Each cell is part, even though they have their own individual responsibilities, they all are bigger of the great. And which it's kind of the same thing with God. We're all trillions of cells of God, all having our own roles, all having our personalities and responsibilities, but we are a small fragment of that divine. That's why we work together in a consciousness. All of us are working together to make the body run, right? So it's the same concept with God and humanity. We're all part of that essence. So yeah.
Now, the one other aspect that you touched on just a moment ago, I want to revisit it a little bit
Sure, go ahead.
because I am of the same personal belief. Because I think in religion, organized religion especially, there is so much I'm right, you're wrong.
Mhm.
You know, this is the way, this is not the way. And I don't ever want to be that person that says your way is wrong, only my way is right. Never want to be that person because from a religious standpoint, how can you really know if you're right at this particular point? Because we are currently, in our human phase. And so until we transition, how
Mhm.
do you really actually know
Really
what
know.
is on the
Yeah.
other side? And
Yeah.
people base
Am I on the
every
winning team or not?
yes, people you go their whole lives,
That's
you
right.
know, thinking, hey, yeah,
Yeah.
this is the
Yeah. It's a great question.
what if it's doesn't there for me? I don't necessarily know if there has to be um some wiggle room in a religious sense, because history has taught us that that's not how they get down, that's not how they roll. But for me, from a spiritual sense, there has to be some wiggle room. There has to be openness. There has to be freedom for everyone's belief
Right. Okay. Are you
to
ready to get your
to
mind blown?
flourish.
Are you
Yeah,
ready to expand this stuff? Okay.
yeah.
So in spirituality, there is this underlying knowing that there really is no hell. Okay. Hell was actually created to make people be in fear. So the idea if you sin, you go to hell, you burn in hell forever. There's really no um, destination like that. Okay. So what happens to people who do bad things, right? So we vibrate on different frequencies. And so there's people who are vibrating on a very low frequency, the murderers and the Hitlers and these bad people, quote, bad. And so they are actually, wherever you pass away, what frequency you ever are, that's the frequency you go over to the other side. So on the other side, you land on a lower frequency, okay? Because there's different frequencies on the other side. So, and then that frequency or that person or soul at that time will have to come back, reincarnate, and try again, and try again, and try again. So, but, being in this lower frequency field, they will have to, or a young soul or whatever you want to call it, will have to keep coming and trying to learn or grow. It doesn't have to be Earth, it can be anywhere else, but just try to mature and learn, just like we do here, in different ways. So, do I believe there's demons and evilness and darkness? Yes, of course there is. With light, there is dark. Yes. But whether it's not about getting it right or wrong or choosing the right religion, as are they going to hell? Are they going, who gets into heaven? It's not like that. We are all part of God, the good children and the bad children. But we're all part of God. So we all go back home, right? We all go back home. So it's not like God is saying, this is one of the questions you ask the Bible, right? This is the questioning, the poking the holes. Like, well, if you're unconditional love and everything is good, then why are you damning people? If there's no judgment, if there's no, like, why are you damning these people to hell? That was something that was really created to put people in line, to keep people in line. So, there you are the way of heaven or the other side or back home source, whatever you want to look at it. It's already you. This is heaven. This is heaven. You are part of that. So it gets deeper into the aspect of, okay, why are there kids that are born just to die, or, these people being bombed, and are these massacres or these shootings, and like, why would God let this happen? And there's this whole other aspect of spirituality and the roles that we play. If every soul that comes to here to earth has a specific role to play. You chose that role for yourself to play while you're here on earth. So you chose a certain role specifically based on your purpose, your soul's journey. And, even as awful, let's just say, as someone like Hitler, he provided a role in our world for us to see that we're not doing good. We're not doing right. If this man can genocide all these people, like, we need to be a better world. And he created nations to come together and work for the greater good of humanity because of this one man and all those people that sacrificed their life for us to realize we suck as humanity. We need to be better. And because of that, we have all grown in so many different ways, not different countries, different cultures, different perspectives. And it's because of that role that we were able to do that. So with light comes dark, and the dark really allows us to see what needs to be healed, what needs to be helped. So in answer to your question, like, we all are going to go back home. It's not, but how you live that life, how you give more good karma, the more you love one another, the higher your frequency is, the higher frequency you are when you go home. And the idea is that you want to go home on a higher frequency so that you can be on that higher frequency. So
All righty, you
it's
just
intense.
touched
It gets deep.
of my absolute favorite topics, which is frequencies.
It
That
gets deep.
that would almost deserves its own
Yeah, it's a whole
its own episode all unto itself. But you did a wonderful job of explaining how frequency affects our lives and how frequencies kind of determine your next stage.
Yeah.
Let it go. Okay.
So, do you believe in reincarnation? Let's just say that a lot of Christians.
I do. And it's because, just as you so eloquently explained, I realized that depending on the age of your soul, the maturity of your soul, there may be other lessons that you did not really fully pick up on in whichever incarnation you happen to be. So I believe that I personally have an understanding of that, and I am not going to sit here and say that, hey, I'm super awake and I'm super enlightened. I know I've got some stuff I need to work on. So
it's an endless
yeah.
journey.
I'm not quite sure how it all works in the grand scheme of things, but I'm pretty sure I'll be back for at least one more round. Okay, let me stop being silly. Now, I like the fact that you allow me to be silly when I need to be silly,
Hey.
even though we're talking about a very serious topic.
It is, but you gotta look at it. It's really not. It shouldn't be as serious. I think it shouldn't be. It should be like, wow, what a beautiful life we have. Wow, what freedom as a multidimensional being we have. We gotta laugh at ourselves because the human side of us is funny. We're so funny. Why do we do these things? Like,
Okay.
it's
And
just
you touched on something that I wanted to expand a little bit about, and that was the fact that I think different ages
Mhm.
and different dispensations, if
Mhm.
we will,
Mhm.
call for different. It's a different way of looking at it. It calls for a different perspective.
Yeah.
And I think what happens in organized religion is that they applied, or they have applied, and they continue to apply um, ideologies that were that were necessary for other dispensations
Mhm.
to the current dispensations and the current times. So, um, and they have done just a horrible job at transitioning to what I feel would be a better way of going about and looking at things. So, and again, I think it's the whole thing of being tied to kind of those older mindsets, those older traditions. I mean, if a tradition isn't serving the community that it's meant to help,
Mhm.
why hold on to it? So now we're just doing things for tradition's sake.
Yeah, that's true.
Would that be a fair assessment?
That is a fair assessment. I think that comes from a lot of organized religions kind of live and die by the book, whatever book they follow.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't sway from that because that is their truth, their way. So, for example, Southern Baptists, we strongly follow the word to the T when it comes to the Bible. And, Southern Baptists or Christianity, some form, feel like you have to go through Jesus to get to God. And there's nothing, I mean, Jesus was a beautiful, beautiful human man interpretation, a living example of God. He was way before his time, obviously. I'm not taking away that it wasn't God's son, nothing like that, that on the cross, that whole process. But um, I think that when you focus on the word to the word of the Bible, or any kind of book, that the Torah, whatever book their religions are following, it's hard to escape from that traditional sense and perspective because you're so bounded by a book. You're so bounded by this word that you just don't look outside of it. So you're not only worshiping Jesus, God, or whatever religion, you're also worshiping this book of this words. And so you're putting a lot of trust in that translation of that book. You're putting a lot of trust in those writings and readings. And so it becomes, that's where it's hard to break tradition because the book never changes, you know, and that's what they, are aligned with. So
Exactly. And I think if more people had a better understanding of how religion, politics, and governments,
Mhm.
how those interactions,
Mhm.
they did not do right by their spiritual growth and journey.
Yeah. So
Because
there is, yeah, there is a
there's
lot
been
of,
so much just tied to those institutions
Mhm.
that, and one institution has such have historically had um too much influence on the others,
Mhm.
and most of the times in a very, what I would classify as a negative uh role in how they interact with one another, that it's, you just have to understand and put that into context,
Yeah,
and how you reconcile all the stuff that's happened.
yeah.
And most of it, again, I would say probably not necessarily so good for your spiritual growth, and just
Well, the thing is, are you one of those people who are going to dig deeper for truth? Are you one of those people who are going to do the research? Are you one of those people that are going to question? Are you one of those people who are going to want more? So I think that's a personal thing when you start kind of getting that nudge, like, that didn't feel right. That didn't sound right. And you start questioning things. So, and not just invest 100% in the Bible, like, well, who wrote the Bible? Why did they write the Bible? Where did it come from? Are these all the books? There's a lot of books that weren't in the King James version. There's the Ethiopian Bible, which has a lot more books than our Bible. There's different versions of our Bible. A lot of people don't even know that. They only think King James Version is the only version. There's not. So in the King James Version, there was a lot of books that were left out. And those books are way more interesting. These are the books from the Dead Sea Scrolls and things like that. So, there's the Book of Mary. There's the Book of Enoch. Amazing book. There's the Book of Thomas. All these books were purposely left out for a reason. And if you read those books, or you decided like, well, why would they leave those books out?
Well, you would have to ask all of those fine folks that were at the Council of Nicaea. They got in there.
Well, no, they were all there. It's just
they were there, and they were
certain.
Many of them were politicking and advocating for this book or that book of the other. But even if you take it into that context, it's like, could you even include all of the books that were claimed or that was supposed to be divinely inspired by God?
And you have to ask, like, why were they left out? Why were they chosen to left out? Which my curiosity is like, well, why would I include those books? What's wrong with those books? And then you go read those books, you're like, I see why it was left out. Because they really explain. Those are the real spiritual books, the ones that are left out. And so, but that's the thing, like, that takes a person to want even to know that or believe that. Because some people are just like, I'm just going to believe this one book. I believe it till the end. And that's okay. There's parts of the Bible that I really resonate with. But then there's other parts I'm like, nah, that doesn't feel right. My God wouldn't do that. The God I know, he wouldn't think that way or behave that way. Like, after a while, your intuition kicks in and you can see what was male ego created, or man ego created or infiltrated in there. I don't think God was sitting there saying, you need to give 10% to the church. I really don't feel God would be saying that. I do feel like, you know what I mean? Like,
I think that
I don't think my God would be like, hey, 10%, you got to give it back to the church. I mean, God isn't a gangster, a hustler who wants to his money back to the church. Yeah. So
here we go.
But that's just different perspectives.
Anna, you just opened up a whole big old can of worms, young lady. I'm glad you did.
But giving back is part of the cycle of giving and receiving. That I do agree with. But do I have to give 10% exactly to specifically the church? Now that's something different. So, and there was a beautiful story where Jesus was like, this lady gave 1 penny, and that's all her savings. And that was more than she gave to everybody. I mean, Jesus was overturning tables in churches against all of this stuff. So it wasn't like he was in agreement of it either. So, there's things that we miss, and sometimes we get distracted with in the Bible, but at the end of the day, it's really what feels right. That didn't resonate with me. So I give back, but I don't necessarily, since I'm not a church goer, I give back in other ways. Yeah.
Maybe tithing or a tenth. Maybe that was something that was more of a man-made or man-conceived ideology that just kind of
wiggled its
way permeated. Let's use that one into something that some people think is a requirement.
Yeah. Yeah.
But here's how I would suggest anyone look at it. God, the creator, the source, the higher power. That is where everything emanates
Mhm.
from.
Mhm.
So all of your blessings, all of your resources, all of those source, that's where they emanate from.
Yeah.
So since we are from the source,
Mhm.
doesn't it, wouldn't it kind of, the blessings come from the source. So are you saying the source just needs more of what it, things that emanate? I don't necessarily know that, but I do definitely believe that we should dedicate, if you will,
Okay.
uh, resources to the helping of others.
Mhm.
And I don't necessarily know that it needs to be a specific number,
Mhm.
but it should be a number that you as an individual are comfortable with.
I wouldn't say number. I would say
I mean,
like an act.
and again, that sounds a little, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's more about
Give,
energy.
give when you feel motivated to do so.
Yeah, yeah. Like it, the way the laws of the universe kind of work is all about giving and receiving, the infinity flow of giving and receiving, giving love, receiving love. And so, sometimes that means a monetary value. So money is an energy exchange. So it's, sometimes money is a way of giving that and then receiving your abundance monetarily back as well. So it's really how you or what you, the act of want to give and also be open to receive. Sometimes that can be in a monetary exchange. Sometimes that can be in volunteering. Sometimes it can be just sending the love and light, good intentions, prayers. That's also giving. So it's really up to you, whatever, where you're at, what you're capable of, what you feel, and there's no judgment. So sending a prayer is just as valuable as sending a donation, just as valuable. And I think people think that money has to be the ultimate, you know, level of giving. And it's not necessarily the case. I mean, prayer is just as valuable, just as powerful of asking blessings for someone else. So that's why I think a number isn't really what's tied to it. It's the act or the energy that you exude about it. That's most important. The intention behind it is most
The
important.
intention behind said giving. Okay, loving that.
Because like you have to understand there's this saying, the more you give, the more you get back in return. That's true. That's the physics of energy, the magnetism of what you put out, you get back. And that's just the flow of how natural things go, and how we're in this constant flow of processing. So when you're thinking of your actions, you're thinking of your thoughts, you're thinking of what you're doing for others, being conscious and aware of the goodness that you're providing for that. Trust me, it will come back to you. It will come back to you. And that's what good karma is about. That's what good energy is about. That's you sharing your light, testimony in different ways, your inspiration in different ways, but it will come back to you. So,
Yeah. I think there are just so many people caught up in again, the traditional, the religiosity of things that they do not allow through, they don't allow that free flowing, that open mindedness that I think being more spiritual as opposed to religious um, provides. I think that, and and we were just discussing it. I think that's why a lot of the more esoteric books and some of the some of the books of the Bibles that were not included that really kind of delve into the idea and the concept of not everything being A, B, C, one, two, three, linear in that
mhm.
respect. And again, just people tying their salvation, their every little aspect of their life, l- literally in a literal sense, to what's written in the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that or not necessarily the Bible, but in the Quran or in, you know, the Torah. So um I just personally believe there should you gotta save some room for other ideas, for other concepts, for other philosophies. That's just how I personally feel. And however you personally feel, if that works for you, hey, do your thing.
Yeah, I think the non-judgment thing is the biggest part of it. You know, because whether you come from religion or you're starting out in religion or you're in spirituality, you know, it's hard because like when you're in religion, you're like really judgmental to everyone. And then you get to the spiritual side, then you're judgmental of the people who are still in religion. And then it's like this, you know, the idea is to have no judgment, no, you know, like, you know, they'll find their journey. If that works for them, that works for them. And it should be that way in religion as well. It should be. But you know, there's different organized religions that are very, very, yes, which is
Rigid.
why,
That's the
yeah,
point.
very rigid. Yeah. And because that's part of their belief. But at the same time, there's supposed to be no judgment whatsoever. Our God is not a damning, judging, wrathful God, even though it's been explained like that. Sometimes it's more of us, our responsibility of having no judgment, our responsibility of not forcing someone to wake up or forcing someone to see something different. Like you see these people with the megaphones on the, I don't know if you remember in Florida or in Orange, they would be there
Mhm.
with the megaphone and the big speaker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody was clubbing, bouncing around from bars to
Oh,
bars.
the
It was
guy with the
packed.
megaphone. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
He was like,
yes,
you
yes.
guys are
Right there on Orange
going
Avenue.
into the club. You're going to have that alcohol. You know, Satan's in there. You know, like he was just like, wow,
I,
blasting, judging
yes,
everybody
the
walking
megaphone, and
by.
he would have the placard, right? Yes, yes, I remember megaphone guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's just like, you know, that's not going to work either if you want people
No.
to come to your
Now
church.
you touched on something, and I really want to kind of
But just no judgment, no matter what, just
yeah,
no judgment.
yeah. I really want to say that for me, how I conceptualize this is that God, higher power, source, the ultimate creator. All
Mhm.
right. And if you are creating something, um, but what people I think kind of miss sometimes is that there's the creator aspect and then there's the free will aspect. And
Mhm.
what I think people have a really hard time reconciling it and making and reconcile isn't necessarily the best word. They have a lot of trouble synthesizing how free will and divine creation work. Now,
Mhm.
I'm of the opinion that once the creator creates and if he gives that particular entity free will, then things are gonna happen. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Choices are going to be made.
Mhm.
And I think what people really have to understand is that the creator is a creator. He's not a micromanager.
That's right. Exactly right.
And that free will aspect is how you kind of can understand that, you know, I'm creating you, and then you do you, and then how it unfolds is how it unfolds, and how you respond to how it unfolds is again,
Mhm.
you know, the at some point, personal accountability and responsibility have to come into play.
So one of the beautiful things about the creator is, you know, as a soul, you chose to come back into this reincarnation, maybe try again certain life lessons, or maybe have a different experience. But you chose, like I said before, a role you were going to play, and you chose this with God, you know, the creator, that this role that you were going to be in this lifetime. Maybe it was for you to learn humility. Maybe it was you to learn self-love. Maybe it was for you to play the bad guy this time around. Whatever the case is, you came down here. Now, part of being human, the human experience, because we're souls inside, this suit. The human experience, you are granted free will. Okay, that's the beauty of being a human, is that we have free will. So even though God, the creator, divine source, gave you the opportunity in this lifetime to do what you want to do, as far as your goals, what you want to learn and what you want to achieve, it is up to you on how you get there. So that's the free will. And yes, there is some personal accountability that's involved. Yes, you chose your parents, you chose where you were going to be, and country, body, you chose everything before you came. So, you know, part of people's trauma, part of people's rough childhoods or surroundings is part of that processing of you learning your life lessons that you chose to learn in this lifetime. And so when you have that free will on how you maneuver in life to figure that out. And some of us weren't we didn't choose the best cards or the best situations, but at the end of the day, it's for you to find your own path. And that's the wiggle room, the free will that the creator gives you to do that. Yes, you're right. The creator is not a micromanager and saying you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do this. That's not what it's about. We sometimes take the scenic route. I took a very big scenic route. I didn't go straight like I was supposed to go. And I definitely made some mistakes along the way. But that's the beauty of the free will and the journey and learning and growing and expanding and really finding out who you are. It is the complete process. So the free will is the responsible thing. And you can come down here and you're like, screw it, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. But make no mistake, you're going to have to come back and do it all over again. Come back and do it all over again.
Now,
yeah.
you know that I am a lover of all things fun and good time and all of that. But again, those activities, those choices, they come with some karma.
Yeah.
There's a spiritual price to be paid for the laissez-faire activity and lifestyle. But I think if you think about it from a spiritual point, it's like there are so many people out there that live such a constricted, confined life and lifestyle that maybe when they come back, or if they have to come back, maybe they have to learn that aspect of life. Because as much chaos as there is out there, I believe that the universe primarily is a universe and existence of order and balance. And balance as well. So that's kind of how I look at it, because we love to have fun, but do we love to do the responsible things too? I mean, there again, balance, and the ability to not be so rigid that you can't learn to enjoy yourself and appreciate even the little things, the small things, the things that don't cost anything in life. You were speaking about that earlier when you were saying that your church is the beach, and there we go.
Yeah.
Now, we have been going at it officially for about an hour. I want to be super respectful of Ana Reina's time. You know why? That's because I want to get some more of it. So I cannot, in good conscience, keep you longer than you need to be here in this particular time frame, because I want to have you back. What day next week works for you, Miss Ana?
We'll get together on that. Yes.
Okay, we'll get together on that.
Great. So
well, see, there we go. There's that free flow in that thing going on. Anna's got to check her schedule. I'm working around. I'm on your time for next week. Okay, so you just tell me what day in the next 7 to 14 days works for you. All right.
This has been so lovely. Thank you. I love. It's like we're having a conversation somewhere.
And that's exactly how I wanted it to be. I wanted to be because I had learned because most of the time back in the day we were just like interviewing,
Yeah.
interviewing. But the thing, podcasting is different in that it has the foundation has to be conversational, and you can obviously have some prepared questions, and that's obviously good because you want structure. But the key is to be able to have a structured conversation that's flows conversationally as opposed to just I'm just sitting here asking you questions and you responding to me, yeah. So
No, I love what you're doing. This is amazing. I'm so proud of you, honestly.
thank you, Anna. I cannot be any prouder of what you are doing. And please, 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 every time that you feel the need to come on, please do so. And always speak about Soulmanity because I think you guys are doing some amazing work. I have to get with you off screen to talk some more because I
you
am
can
super
definitely
happy and excited.
go to our website. It's soulmanity101.com. Soulmanity is your soul and humanity. So Soulmanity, SOULMANITY 101.com. And the website will direct you. We have classes. We have even a private group, a membership group. It's like a gym membership for your soul where we kind of dive in a little bit more to kind of help you. So yeah, it's a lot there that we offer that maybe whoever goes to it can find something that resonates with them, whatever part of the journey you're on. So yeah.
All righty. Well, I think I'm gonna leave it right there. I'm gonna let you have the last word. And we're just gonna say goodbye, everyone. And we'll put all the details and some of this stuff we're gonna edit and we're gonna put some stuff on the screen and all that wonderful stuff so everybody knows how to get in touch with everyone. All right.
Yes.
Everybody, bye-bye. We're out of here. We're done. See you later. Ooh, that was great.